69. This was a little Rod Stewart hot legs for the hot climate. Yeah, let's get rid of my beautiful backing band. And in this backing track, honestly, there was nothing but a bass, the voice and drums. So I had to fill up a lot of gaps here. But who cares? It's a challenge and we love challenges. Okay, this episode is about cabinets, and it is especially about the new NANOCAB NEO PRO, which is this beloved tiny little monster. And I wanted to give you a few insights in what we are doing when we design cabinets and what's the story behind it, and you know, what is special and what is the reason for such a cabinet existing. Maybe some of you guys only play with headphones, so there is no real cabinet involved anymore, or you play on your stereo system or studio using IRs, and then of course there is no cabinet involved. But I prefer the old school way, having a real guitar speaker with a real guitar amp like Amp 1 or any other great amp. And these cabinets, BluGuitar cabinets, sound good with most amps because it's a sound design that is suitable for a lot of different sounds, a huge variety from clean, crunch, overdrive, and even for the new guys with the metal. If the sound of a cabinet is balanced in a way, it has a much better versatility. And this is what I'm always looking for when I design things, which means cabinets, amps, and whatever pedals. I call this the Gründsoundkwaliteit, which is the basic sound quality of something. And if this is happening, if it's getting this quality, it can be used for any kind of music. That's what I found out over all the years that I'm in this game of designing guitar products. Okay, but before we go into the cabinet thing, let me talk a little bit about things happening right now. First thing is, next week there's two things at the same time. One is you will see Emanuel Knorr and the Academy of Shred, our metal stream. I know some people are a little bit, what's going on here on this channel? I'm happy that I found somebody that is really modern and metal, which I'm not, so we can kind of keep the experts talking. I'm talking about the stuff that I know, and he's talking about the stuff that he knows, which is more or less modern guitar and metal. So he's having both amps, but he's definitely an Iridium user, and you know, he's touring and recording with this kind of things, and he understands drop guitars and all that stuff. So this is going on next week, Wednesday. I'm back the week after with something that is also related to next week's Wednesday, because next week's Wednesday is a birthday. Anybody knows? Slash turns 60 next week, and I will have an episode on Slash and his Appetite for Destruction Marshall signature head the week after. So when he is 60 years and 1 week, I will team up with Manuel Bastian, and we both will be here, and we will talk Slash, Marshalls, Guns N' Roses, and the whole, you know, rock and roll kind of thing. Yeah. So that's one thing, talking about what's going on in... Somebody writes, okay, next week is free Wednesday for me. Fair enough. I mean, it's also a free Wednesday for me, which is also cool because that gives me a little bit more time in R&D, which we are heavily using these days to finish our AmpX. it's so exciting. I'm in the zone of my most beloved thing on this planet: sound design and tweaking and squeezing out the last drops for perfection. And yeah, we work every day, even weekends, and yeah, so that's going on. One more thing about YouTube. We are heading towards 15,000 followers or subscribers of the channel. So if you want to do us a favor or whatever, if you're not subscribed yet, please do so, because it helps the algorithm, which means us, to be seen by more people. And so what we are doing here is then hopefully appreciated by more people than before. So I don't know if there's a magic number, but 15,000 is something. You know, when we started like 10 years ago, we had, of course, a few people, but I'm very happy about this channel, because we started in the COVID times when I couldn't go anywhere else. And these days it's so hard to find good music shops for clinics. And the other thing is, when I travel to a music shop, there's only whatever, 30 people, 50 people, and that's it. And here we have way more people. We are totally international. Sorry for the German guys, there's always a complain about me not speaking Deutsch. Ich kann auch Deutsch sprechen, das ist also, ich habe das nicht verlernt. But we have sometimes as many American, British or international viewers here as we have Germans, sometimes even more. So it's, sometimes the Germans are stronger, but it goes in waves and it depends on the topics and what we are doing. So anyway, I'm happy about the Academy of Tone and the BluGuitar YouTube channel. Then what was going on is the test weeks. I think these are closed now. It's we have, you know, all the inquiries for cabinets and amps to check at home. We will do another round later on, but for now that's it. And we will take care of you guys. So there's like a week or so where you have time to test, or maybe even two. So that's what's going on. And one more thing. For those who don't know, there is a thing called Blugipedia, which is our knowledge base. Maybe I grab my laptop. Okay. So, and when you are, oops, my notes. Where is Blugipedia? So, this is how it looks, and you can find tons of articles on anything, but what is new is a tiny little chatbot down there. And you can ask Blugi, that's me, at least my knowledge is on there, and you can ask anything and you will get an answer, so far based on all the content on Blugipedia, but soon we will extend this with all the knowledge from our service department over the last 10 years, which is a lot of detailed knowledge. And this is something I think that's very clever and very modern, because we have to be ready for a lot of questions about AmpX and what's the things that we have done. And I'm very happy about what's happening on Facebook with the user groups and stuff like that. That's super helpful. But additionally, we have this function here, which comes from our software. So you can type in how to connect, whatever, two cabinets on amp 1 question mark maybe. So I don't know if you can see that, and then I hit enter, and then this little, hopefully half intelligent something gives me an answer. Yep. So okay, and it's that simple. We simply ask a question here. How old is Thomas? I hope the bot doesn't know it. Is Thomas Blug? Let's see if it fucks it up. I hope so. Okay. Sorry, we couldn't find any results. Please contact the team for further assistance. Yeah, at least that's a good answer, because if the bot would say I'm 2 years old, something is wrong, which I'm not. And I'm not as old as Slash, but close. Okay, so this is going on in the BluGuitar world, and this will be something we are also improving. So with this bot, we just have to feed this kind of AI with the right knowledge, which we do have. It's just a matter of weeks to make this thing even more intelligent based on what we are doing here. 31 years, yeah, sure, thank you for the compliments. I was 31 long time ago. I'm too lazy to calculate. Somebody is complaining about subtitles. Is this something, Lucas, that we have no chance to do that? I mean, for some reason, YouTube is giving the option and sometimes not. Or what is it? I don't know. A live Untertitel. So I translate. The subtitles, they will take time for the software, for YouTube to process it. And after it's been processed, it's available. So when we are live, like now, we have to live with what we have live in this situation. That's how it is. I know technology is getting better, but still there's always room for improvement. Okay. What's going on in the chat here? Hallo von Meerbusch. Metal for Frankie. I have 2 Neo Pro since release, and it's awesome for metal. It's cause how low can you turn the volume on M1 and still sounds very good. Yeah. Or I think all German viewers are max 60 to 65 years old. All these people could be able to understand English. Yeah. Hey, take it as a challenge. This is your Academy of Tone and English lesson in one. And I try to be not too complicated with my German English. Kuckucks aus Heidelberg. I get, yeah, Wolfgang Michael Singh. Kuckucks aus Heidelberg. For the international guys, Heidelberg is one of those very touristy towns because it's actually very beautiful. The Altstadt, the old center of Heidelberg, is beautiful, and they have a castle on the hill, and you can overview the valley and the river, and yeah, it's a good place, a nice place to be. I've been there many times. Okay. let's start with speakers. Okay, my personal opinion is the speaker is 50% at least of the sound of the electric guitar. So if the guitar only has an amp and you have no good speaker, your beautiful guitar and your beautiful amp will sound no good, because the speaker is the last kind of thing that connects from the signal to your ears. So this to me is so critical. If something is wrong, might be your taste, whatever, but or is not as good as it could be for you, you are losing a lot. So I have always been a big fan of decent speakers or good speakers, because in my teens I was suffering, and I was actually coming all the way from my first homemade 1x12 cabinets with, I guess it was faint speakers, I don't even remember what it was. And then having a Mesa Boogie with an Electro Voice 12L speaker, which is a very special and good speaker, but still this speaker didn't make me happy. So I bought a Marshall 4x12 cabinet, which is basically the sound that I was always looking for, the sound in my head. There was all, you know, I connected my Mesa amp, MK2B, to the Marshall cabinet, and bam, even though it was not the perfect match of amp and cabinet, the cabinet showed me the way that it is. And on this picture, we can see this cabinet here, and the other half of this stack is actually the one that I have underneath the Twincab here. So I do own a full stack of, is it 1970? This was a 100 watt full stack. The amp, the top is just around the corner. So what is the thing about the cabinet? For me, the cabinet is moving the air. And from the full stack that people used back in 1970, when the PA systems were weak and Ritchie Blackmore had a couple of full stacks and Jimi Hendrix, and they were kind of projecting the guitar sound from stage into the hall. The PA system was not what they are today. And that's already part of a problem today, because I believe that a rock band, me being a classic rock player, should have a level where the drums and the guitar have to be at some kind of equal level. If the guitar is lower than the drums, what a lot of music today is, rap music, the guitar is sinking in the sea of frequencies, and two things are happening. The guitar is losing the dynamic, because you are trying to keep up with the drums, but you never will, because the volume is too low, and therefore your playing sucks. You kill strings because you hit too hard, you play only things, and then other people say, yeah, you probably should wear in-ears. In-ears are cool for certain things, but to me, the old school way of having a cabinet and a real drum on stage is still the most enjoyable way for me as an electric guitar player, which does not mean that you can't play dynamic. Well, there's the musician's joke of guitar players, I can't play any louder. No, you can play loud, but you can play dynamic. And the moment when you use this element, dynamic, nobody will yell at you when you play soft, and then play a little louder, and then you have a peak, and then you go back for a normal volume. I've done this my whole entire life and it always works. At soundcheck, I get yelled at. It's like, the guitar is too loud. I guess we all had the story. So that's the stage situation. On the other hand, on stage, when you play outdoor festivals or anything open air with no walls around you, the air molecules, they go nowhere. They go a few meters, and of course the sound engineer will still yell at you, but there is no body, there is no resonance of a room around you. And in such a situation, you need a lot more headroom, you need a lot more volume on an open air stage than in a small club. Okay, that's physics. And then the smart way to arrange with the reality, which means how to lock with the drums, with the bass, with the band and the singer, is something that you have to get a little bit experienced with. And there is something, it's just like you learn the first G chord and then you learn a few variations, and after a while you know which variation works best in which situation. And that's the same about how loud and where you place your cabinet, and all these next level details. And when the sound guy complains, try to get it out of his face and put it sideways from on the stage. So if my glass would be the sound guy and I'm the guitar player on stage, the cabinet would then not be straight into the audience, into the sound guy's ears. No, I would place it here, and the cabinet would face here and I stand there. So I have about the same sound and the same distance to the cabinet, but the sound guy doesn't get all the direct peak sound in his head, which makes this guy happy. So that's something. But mind, there might be a singer next in this direction. Maybe he loves it, maybe he hates it. So in that case, you can even go in a wider angle, almost inwards to the stage. What I'm trying to say is the placement of the cabinet gives you one parameter. And that is the reality on stages today. And BluGuitar offers a range of several cabinets that are all giggable. That's, for me, one criteria. Even the smallest, like the NANOCAB, is a fully giggable cabinet. Maybe not for the loudest band on this planet, but if you play with a real drummer, this thing can be used and you will survive, even outdoor. I know people are doing that, but why do we offer several different cabinets? Because different taste and different situations. There's one thing about my taste, which you can find in these cabinets, and probably not everybody is loving my taste, but at least I can offer something special. I believe that these cabinets have a quality, and therefore I'm always striving to get the best I can do in the size. And for me, the criteria about the BluGuitar cabinets is the biggest sound in the smallest format. And nobody needs to convince me. I found my own cabinet, which is the Fatcab, the one behind me. Fatcab exists even longer than BluGuitar. That is my private solution for, I don't know, 15 years, very, very long. So, and all the other, and you will always see with this cabinet, exceptions are there because I test several of my cabinets also in public. but it's not like I got so used to the Fatcab, and I know it so well that I know what to do with it in any situation. So that's me and the Fatcab, and now I can talk why I have done other cabinets and why other people might even prefer those. So the whole thing with BluGuitar started with the Fatcab, because that was even pre-BluGuitar, and then with the approach of the AMP1 being the smallest 100-watt amp, nano tube, blah, 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 lightweight, most compact. And I thought 12-inch is the speaker that I love. Some people love 10-inch speakers. I only like them in very specific Fender amps. And these amps, they do have their quality. Fender Bassman, nice amp, but it's not a versatile amp in the sense of a BluGuitar amp. If you're just a blues guy, and then, you know, there's nothing wrong about a 10-inch speaker. You play your super reverb or your 59 Bassman and you're in heaven. I'm not arguing against this. I'm just saying it's a brilliant amp for that specific sound, and that's it. On the other hand, I do have users of the NANOCAB. Tommy Z from somewhere in the States near Niagara Falls, he plays AMP1 and the NANOCAB, and every time when I listen to him play, he sounds like Stevie Ray Vaughan with his super reverb and 10-inch speakers. I don't know how he does it, but this guy has the tone and it sounds so good. Check him out, Tommy Z. So we can get those sounds also from BluGuitar cabinets. I'm not sure if what I would prefer. I have some of the amps, but you will never see me with my 64 super reverb on stage, because that's not Thomas Blug. Thomas Blug plays the super reverb in the studio, or played it in the studio. And it was one of my weapons in the studio, besides my Vox AC30 and my Tweed Deluxe and my Marshalls and my Usen Kettner amps and whatever was in my arsenal. But it's not my amp for life, because I have a different style. And this amp is brilliant, but it would limit me and would make me struggle to be myself. So I totally accept it's a personal thing as well. I'm just here to give you my thoughts and my ideas about what I've done for you guys, because the idea behind this cabinet is very simple. Does it get smaller with a 12-inch speaker than this? Well, it can't, because the 12-inch is on the edge here, here, here. And all the rest I have done is to make a housing that sounds as big as possible for a 12-inch speaker. And to max that out, I have created my own speakers for this cabinet. And one of the questions I did hear a lot is like, yeah, you love your Fatcab so much, and what's the difference of the Fatcab and the NANOCAB? Why don't you put the Fatcab speaker in the NANOCAB? Because it has a bigger magnet. This is a Fatcab speaker. It's the BluGuitar BG12F. F stands for Fatcab. And this is quite heavy, 42-ounce magnet. The NANOCAB speaker has only 38-ounce magnet, and that, to me, if I listen to this speaker in that cabinet, I hate it. It doesn't match. The whole magic is gone. There is no balance. It's too, I'm not saying too shrill, but it's too aggressive. It's lacking, nothing is at the right place. I put it very simple. And In the Fatcab, I have tried so many different speakers. Before I had BluGuitar, I was using this housing with Celestion greenbacks, 25-watt speakers, and I was killing them all the time. But this cabinet takes greenbacks, takes vintage 30s, and it takes my special designed BluGuitar speaker, which has 60 watts continuous power and has 120 watts peak power. You can kill it. I've done a video on that, but we don't kill those many speakers. So simple rule again is when you hit the level, when you reach the level, when it doesn't get any louder, but even only more compressed and muddy, this is where you should stop to increase the master volume. Because master with a Fatcab or NANOCAB, 5 is always safe. Then there's the low power mode, which gives you half power mode, which gives you 50, 60 watt. And then you can go further. But then it's getting muddy. Everything is getting muddy. It's getting muddy on full power because the speaker is getting muddy. But it's getting also muddy when you reduce the power, you're just a little safer. So some people like that, but honestly, when you feel like, it's like with your car, when you're closing to your top speed, don't press the gas pedal through the bottom until your feet are somewhere on the ground, you know. You feel it. It's like, okay, there's nothing more for you here. It's just more saturation. And this is where you should stop. Just before that, it's only more saturation, because that will kill the speaker. And the speaker is killed by overheating the coil, the copper wire, which is winded around a Nomex voice coil. It's a material that is very light and is specially designed to handle higher temperatures. But if the temperature gets too high, it will simply melt and burn, and that's the end of your speaker. So one thing about the BluGuitar speakers, I try to have those speakers in a sweet spot for many situations. Of course, I'm the gigging guy, so these cabinets are giggable, and I have done hundreds, maybe thousands, I don't know how many gigs I actually play, but let's say it's at least 50 a year, so 500 and more, you know, yeah. So with these Fatcabs and BluGuitar speakers. And one thing is, I like speakers that sound alive. And they should sound alive at stage volume, but they should also sound alive at home volume. And this is something here, there's no edge treatment, that's something that is not dampening. So I try to have extra lightweight membranes. I have reduced anything that is dampening the speaker in a way that it makes it dull. And sometimes speaker designers use methods to get rid of some harshness, but I don't like their methods when they do it on the speaker themselves with certain things. But I can demonstrate, which I have done also in the past, that the speakers that I'm using here, they should be sounding balanced at bedroom volume and at stage volume. I'm honest, there is a magic that happens with volume in general. We can't deny that. But there's also a little thing that happens with a speaker when it's played a little louder. But my speakers do sound very, very balanced at the lowest possible volume, because if we are all honest, at home, your wife, your girlfriend, or your family is not excited if you kill them with loud guitar sounds all day. And it's still so much fun to play a real cabinet like a NANOCAB, which is perfect for your living room because it's not the Marshall cabinet, and it's yeah, and it's a real guitar speaker. So that's the general story. And why there is now a NANOCAB Neo Pro is because I have been working constantly on new ideas and speakers, and I was heavily interested in having another factor to save weight. And I experimented with different woods, and I experimented with different speaker types, and I try everything. I try poplar wood, I try different thicknesses, I try different style of wood, birch, multiplex, I don't know all the words for it, different styles of wood, different density, and I try to learn how they do affect the tone. And for these cabinets here, I always choose the thinnest possible way of wood to still have it sound great. That's why a NANOCAB is only, I think it's 12 millimeters, forgot about it. And the baffle is sometimes a little bit thicker or uses a different wood, but I try to max out the sound and the weight, because I hate when anything is heavier than it could be. If it's possible to get the same sound quality with less weight, I'm totally happy to do that for me and for you. If it's not possible, sometimes I have to come up with solution, like on the Twincab. The back of the Twincab is pretty wide because two 12-inch speakers, so the wooden plate on the back is like that size here of the grill cloth. And so I was using a bracing to stabilize the back of the cabinet with the front. And that allowed me to use a thinner wood. Because if you have a massive plate of that size, and you go to 20 millimeters because you need that stiffness, otherwise the low end goes like undefined, very wishy-washy, and a thick wood would do the job, but then it's so heavy. And the other option is having a thinner wood and then stabilize it with a special connection from front to back. That's things that I always check. And the other field is working on speakers. And when, I have shot a little picture of the office with my Celestion and Jensen Neodimium samples that I have there, and some others. But you can see, this is all in the office. In the front, you might see that cabinet with the two clamps that can hold a speaker, and this is with crocodile clamps for the connection, the electrical connection, and then the clamps. I can swap a speaker in 10 seconds. So this is my quick check box, and that's kind of handy. And then I have a switcher for different cabinets, which is actually here. We use that in a minute. And yeah, so I have been through all the great Neo speakers on the planet so far, And there are a few by Celestion and there are a few by Jensen, and they are good, but they didn't make me 100% happy. And so these companies are very nice. They even sent me some more and stuff, so I'm constantly checking out. But with my supplier, which is not one of those two great companies, I can go even deeper. And there is a little video of the speakers starting with the version 1 from 2019 up to 25 when we went into production. And just to give you an idea how many samples I'm asking for, and that's a torture for any manufacturer. We don't sell millions of cabinets because we are a small company, but they make more samples for BluGuitar than for anybody else, than for, you name the companies, whatever, Orange, Fender, Marshall, or whoever. But as long as they don't kick me out as a customer that only gets on their nerves, at least I could excite them to work with me. And yeah, watch this little clip. You get a picture of how many years I spent with only getting one speaker, Neodimium. So this was the first Neo sample from 2019. Second one was 20. Third one, 21. Another one in 22, and so on and so forth. And finally, this is what we are using in production, which is this year. And we are at sample number 7. Okay. Yeah, so over years, it takes years, because it's a combination of getting a sample, asking for certain aspects, make a report, and send them new whatever frequency diagrams, and look at this. This is a problem around 1.5 kilohertz. It's too much, but don't lose too much here, and blah 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 blah. So it goes ping pong, ping pong, ping pong, ping pong. It's not like you tell a supplier or speaker manufacturer, hey, give me a whatever vintage 30. Nothing wrong about a vintage 30, but my speakers sometimes I believe are better than vintage 30s, because I maxed out every speaker for every cabinet. And the vintage 30 is a great all-rounder, and old greenbacks and G12 65s, and I love all those great speakers, but they never match my cabinets perfectly. That's why I design my own speaker. And this is like going on and on and on, because it's not that simple. And for our American friends, I had this naive question, yeah, with the tariffs, you simply go and have an American speaker supplier, and the cabinet's American made. Hey, you have seen how many samples and how many years it took me to get the first neodymium speaker that I really put into a BluGuitar cabinet. I'm talking about 6 years. I mean, and if I would torture some American speaker manufacturer with with the stuff that I want from them, I think they send me home. You know, we need no business from you guys. You know, and therefore I'm happy how it is here. And unfortunately, we cannot deliver the NANOCAB NEO PRO to the States at this point because the tariffs are way too high. So for the Americans, we still have Fatcabs in stock and Twincabs in stock. Buy them now, because they will not be any cheaper. It's it's the best cabinet for value ratio there is. It doesn't get any cheaper, and it doesn't even will not get any cheaper and better for the American manufacturers. That's a different topic, but what I'm trying to say is it's not that easy. It's not like, oh, 50 watts or 60 watts and blah, and it's done. No, it's not. It's definitely not. And so that is why I do all that kind of testing, always testing. And I know that this is always a side project, and then eventually you see a result. Okay, the magic question now is why there is a NANOCAB and why there is a NANOCAB NEO PRO. Well, the NANOCAB is actually the most successful speaker in the BluGuitar speaker line. We sell more NANOCABs than Fatcabs. I have never thought that. Fair enough. I personally prefer my Fatcab, but that's me, Thomas Blug. But we have more people buying NANOCABs, and they're all so happy. Maybe some people don't need this quality. Maybe they like the sound better. I heard that too. I have people that have both cabinets, and some swear on the NANOCAB because of the tone, different from the Fatcab. And then there's people that prefer this cabinet. So it's all good. It's different people have different requirements or different requests and tastes. One thing I can mention is a Fatcab being on the floor has the most bass and sounds for me killer. It's the 4x12 sound in the 1x12 cabinet. At least that's what I tried. Honestly, it cannot be done because the effects happening on a 4x12 is phase issues with 4 speakers, with a beam that has a beauty and a downside. The downside is way bigger than the beauty of it. And the 4x12 housing is so much bigger. So what I have done with the Fatcab is I try to make a 1x12 cabinet that gives me the feel and the balance what I imagine in a 4x12, knowing that it's not, but I maxed it out on the low end with a special bass tunnel, you know, the Tele Small concept. But anyway, the point here is different tastes. What I try now, I see in the chat behind me why there are 16 and 8 ohm versions. You have seen that in the samples. I try to get a final version in 8 ohm always, for a few reasons. One of them is the power handling, but AMP1 has enough power, it could also do it with 16 ohms. The thing about 16 ohms is they usually sound a bit, I would say, sweeter, because whatever inductions of the coil, there are some effects. But in my opinion, if that, at least it's how I see it, if I found the perfect solution in 8 ohm version, I was always super happy. So I try to have a final version that is 8 ohms. But I have the manufacturer giving me also samples on 16 ohms. And just to have the same concept and see what it does, so I can kind of look at my demand from the 8 ohm and the 16 ohm perspective. Another reason is 16 ohm and 8 ohm change also a little bit the sound of the amp differently because of the current feedback thing. Actually, this is a pretty nice screen here now. Okay, we need something like Mesa Boogie 4x12, but better, lighter, with a BluGuitar logo. That's a good challenge. In my opinion, you know, I try to avoid the 4x12s because they are so bulky. Why not try two of these boys? Then you can stack them and you have 4 12s in 2x12 format. Give that a chance. And there's your logo. And then you can still decide if you have them horizontal or vertical. That will sound different. Also, if you have two speakers next to each other or on top of each other. So that's the thing. And that's, by the way, one feature of the Twincab, that this cabinet can be used vertically and horizontally. It's a huge difference. Any tips on how to dial the power amp level of an amp without getting too much distortion, the sweet spot, so to speak? Bill, the power amp has a certain headroom and then it starts clipping. And just find the spot where it starts clipping and don't go any higher than this. If that's the point that you try to avoid that extra compression you get. I personally like it. So I'm the opposite of you. When in the studio, I first crank the amp and then I put on the gain. That's me, the classic rock blues guy that wants the raw sound of vintage amps, because this is what's happening in a vintage amp. The power amp stage is cooking and the preamp adds on top of that. Versus a modern amp where you have a controlled preamp saturation and you don't want too much of that power amp muddiness, richness and craziness. But this is all a matter of taste. How to dial it in, find that spot, and yeah, there is no rule. It's simply crank it and you feel it. There's nothing more happening than just mud and compression. Something is talking to the guitar. I think it's the phone. Anyway, so I wanted to show you how this... Oh. How the whole thing sounds here in the room. classic NANOCAB and the new NANOCAB Neo Pro side by side. Okay, I don't know how this mic translates. That's super hard to give you a correct impression of the sound in the room. At least we try. It's a Neumann, you know, expensive, good Neumann mic. Don't ask me for the number. Somewhere. Professional stuff. And for me, one of my biggest pleasures after designing a Neo speaker is that when I switch from A to B, it's not like I was used to hear a Neo speaker that sounds cold, that has harsh high end and has no warmth or sounds dull. Both speakers here, I think, they both sound equally balanced and have the high end, the shimmer and all that quality. And that's, for me, that's a winner just by what it is, because that is such a Neo speaker. Just see how this is kind of light as a feather. And this speaker has even more power handling than this boy here. I'm not even... I mean, see my muscles? You have to exercise to hold that speaker, and you don't have to exercise to hold that speaker. So, and then with this Neo speaker, we have the quality because it is tighter when it's getting louder. The classic NANOCAB has a beauty, and that's why it still is in the product line. I'm not saying the Neo speaker is better. I'm saying both cabinets have their own qualities. And I try first to show you that the Neo speaker is not totally different, which it took me years to find Neo speakers that I really would play. And one of those Neo speakers is, I give you a few of the known brands. I mean, there's a Celestion, they have the V type. My opinion is not bad, but a little bit dull. Then they have the Neo Creamback. It's a bit too bright for me. Then when we go for the Jensens, what I like the best is the Stealth 65. That's my personal highlight of Jensen speakers. But still, I went further to make this speaker. Okay. That's the new Neo Pro, and it's a little bit ballsier, I think. Versus the classic. Lucas gives me signs I have reverb. Yeah, of course, because there was a singer on the same channel. Because my channels are usually for singers. Okay, maybe I have to do the whole thing again. bouncier compared to also great, but the classic Neo, the NANOCAB, to me has a slightly more mid-range in a way. So for me, it's bluesier. At least that's how I describe it. And the Neo Pro is a little bit more rock to me, which suits my personal taste because I'm the blues rock guy. And there is a little bit more rock in the new Neo Pro. But hopefully you can hear that shimmery high end, and that's something I'm after. It's if it's too harsh, I hate it, and if it's not there, I hate it too. Okay, so for you guys, I give you a Fatcab to compare with. Of course, it's a different point in the room here, and the mic stands there. I don't know if it's fair, but maybe you can hear the difference. I have no idea how it translates with the mic, but what I can hear in the room is, for me, the winner for rock guitar players is still the Fatcab. But I gigged with both of those NANOCABs, and I can forget about my cabinet in the middle of the set with the Neo Pro. That is what happened to me, and that was quite astonishing because I'm surprised of how big the sound of this cabinet actually is. So we can also, wait a minute, let me plug in the Twincab. And that should be the Twincab now. Okay. Very unfair now to go for only one speaker. I need to increase the volume a bit to be NANOCAB Neo Pro. You can hear physics, that is a bigger cabinet. But some people, this is what I learned, don't even want that extra low end that I personally like so much. And this is, for me, the main point on the Neo Pro. For what it is, first, there is no smaller 12-inch cabinet. There is, I'm not even sure if there's a lighter one than this, because I try to be as light as possible. And it is so easy to travel with this thing, and it really handles stage volume. Yeah, it's something very practical in modern reality. Difference, the NANOCAB is probably the bluesiest cabinet in the product line that also works for other styles, anything rock, and as we heard in the comments here, also metal on a lower level, I would assume. The Neo Pro, especially in the live situation with a real drummer, starts to shine because of more headroom. And that's probably meeting a sweet spot, because that's what basically we are looking for, is how loud is the guitar versus the drums and the rest of the band. And if the guitar is too low in volume, I think every magic is lost. And I'm talking to sound guys about that lately, because they try not to listen, because they think they have to create the whole sound, and then the band is not together anymore. Okay, NANOCAB, as it always has been and always will be, because it's the bluesiest cabinet. NANOCAB Neo Pro, same qualities with a tighter low end, especially at higher volumes. Then there is the Fatcab, my 4x12-ish sound in the 1x12. And then there is the Twincab with the full most power option of the BluGuitar cabinets. And as we heard, some people want even 4x12s. My hint would be try to stack 2 of those and try those horizontally and vertically, because the sound difference is huge. If you have this like upright, way more mids, and if you have it connected to the floor, way more bass. So me, the guy who wants that low end, sometimes when I'm in a difficult venue, I use a thing called a Dee-flex, which is a beam controller, and I would say it's a dispersion of the sound which equally tries to distribute the sound around the cabinet, more like equally in all directions. Let me show you. So what happens with the Dee-flex is your sound guy will love you, because all the direct beamy signal is not hitting his face anymore. You have a more equally dispersed signal, especially when you're a tall guy or when you have to stand close to the cabinet. And that's a reality. When I'm standing right next to my cabinet, the speaker is so low that I don't hear anything of the speaker, because it's it's towards my feet, and so the audience listens more to me. With such a Dee-flex, I have a very nice effect, because the cabinet is on the floor, which gives me more bass. because the floor is coupling with the speaker, a lot more bass, a lot heavier tone. But even when I'm standing here next to the cabinet, in front or just besides the cabinet, I hear the full sound. And that's something, a great tool when you play difficult places or have small stages. Good tool because speakers can do what they can do, and this tool offers options if you want to improve or if you have a sound guy that you have to hate in a way. And I prefer this to the plexiglass wall in front of the cabinet, because that simply blocks the sound, and there's no direction of the sound. It's simply trying to get lower volume with cranked amps, but this is a proper solution which gives you a lot more sound next to the cabinet on the right and the left. But mind, your drummer has never heard you so well because the sound is not going. He can hear the guitar finally. Anyway, there's a lot of things and everything is interconnected, and it's a very, very critical topic these days, volume on stage. I remember the good old days when I was a teenager, and even in my 20s, nobody had any issues with that. You came there, I even had a full stack. And I put that on stage, and I put on my 100-watt Marshall top, and the PA guy didn't complain about it. And today it's a fashion to moan about the loud guitars. Sorry guys, there will be the day where I simply smack you. If you don't listen, hear this. Okay, another thing about the philosophy with the BluGuitar cabinet is they are small, compact, lightweight and powerful. So in the good old days you had a flight case like this one. Maybe we can see that. This is my good old trusty flight case, but that is twice as heavy as the cabinet itself. So why having a flight case these days is bullshit. We have a thick padded cover that goes over the cabinet, and now you can kick it, and the only thing that will suffer is the cover and not the cabinet anymore. And that, yeah, it's a good protection, and it's lightweight. So honestly, me personally, I always use my old cabinet, and I even don't have a cover, but that's me because I have a dirty guitar too. What was the comment the other day? No, it was the comment about infection, and this is like I'm immune, the immunocaster, whatever. But that's my personal thing. I believe that is a very practical solution if you have a cabinet and only this nice padded cover, and you don't need to lug around cases, because a case will also hurt your car. You know, you put this in the trunk and then scratches and stuff, and this is light, so you know, throw it in there and you're good to go. There are a bunch of videos that are on YouTube. Maybe we watch one from another guy, Lucas Fowler from the US. He did a nice comparison video on NANOCAB, Fat Cab and Twincab. And maybe if you have more time and if you are interested, you can watch the full video, but we had a very short edited version, so you get the idea of what he is doing. So enjoy this shortened video of Lucas Fowler. Greetings, by the way.
What's up guys, it's Lucas and you're watching Fine Tuning. As you probably know if you've watched my channel over the past year, the BluGuitar AMP1 Iridium Edition is my main rig for both of my bands. For me, it can cover everything from softer pop sounds to stadium rock sounds to full-bore metal and hard rock tones. I adore my AMP1 for its incredible versatility, consistency, reliability, and compact form factor. So today I'm going to do a massive comparison of all three cabs, and I'm going to find out what their strengths are and also what differentiates them tonally.
Lucas Fowler and some metal. I could see in the chat that somebody wants to hear metal as well from the non-metal player myself. But let's fake metal. Osmium Studios metal sounds question mark. Yeah. So this is now Les Paul mini humbuckers on the Iridium with the Neo Pro. Versus the classic NANOCAB. By the way, you can ask Emanuel Knorr next week because he also uses a NANOCAB for metal. But back to my Gründsoundkwaliteit in German. The basic sound quality. I could show you that any kind of music sounds good through a balanced cabinet. And if the basic sound is not even in a way, has certain whatever spikes or frequency heels in a way that are unnaturally, they will not translate with certain sounds. And I can prove that clean sounds are as good as metal sounds. So from, let's say, zero distortion. Oh, fuck. Anything from clean to heavy overdrive, the BluGuitar, and in between, and the blues and the crunch and all that stuff will sound juicy and balanced. And that's what I'm striving for, Gründsoundkwaliteit. And not just a one-trick pony thing. I'm not saying it's okay. It's not okay. No, one-trick ponies are great, but they are limited. It's like the 10-inch speaker on a Fender Bassman is so great for blues and clean, but not for what I do. I've been there, I tried it, and that's my experience and my feedback. Somebody loves his NANOCAB, that's cool. I prefer the NANOCAB vintage version. Yeah, vintage, exactly. There's a vintage quality. That's why I have all these fucking old guitars here, because they do have the Gründsoundkwaliteit. Why do I play 61 Strat? That's actually because of the Gründsoundkwaliteit. So, plug into this guitar, and even the guitar is not in tune, but I don't know if this mic can hear that, but that guitar sounds like a Steinway grand piano. I think it's totally balanced. We have probably no compressor and nothing, and let's compare that to something not from 1961, also Stratocaster. Not bad. But, of course, okay, slightly different tuning. what I'm trying to say, this guitar has Gründsoundkwaliteit. It's balanced. It has a very great foundation. There's a core note. There are overtones, and yeah, it simply rings and sounds open. This is how I would describe it. For me, that's what I learned on the guitar, and that's what I want from the cabinet as well. And now comes the big discussion. Some people in the internet claim that it's only the pickup and not the wood. Well, we didn't listen to any pickup. These guitars do sound similar, but they don't sound exactly the same. And they especially don't sound the same without amplifier. Because what I was trying to do is to max out the electronics to kind of make this guitar more like this guitar. And that's something that I always learn is when I have a reference, the best reference is always what helps. If you have like no goal, the bar has to be at the highest point. Only if the reference is killer, then we are talking. I mean, a mediocre kind of amp is boring to me. It needs to be exciting. And yeah, that guitar, these cabinets. So any questions, guys? What do you think about Alnico speakers? Yes, I'm a big fan of Alnico speakers. They come from the vintage world. And when we look, for instance, at the Blubox, in the Blubox we do have a cabinet called Stack 1965, and that stack is a Marshall cabinet with 15-watt Celestion greenbacks Alnico. Only 15 watts, so the whole cabinet can handle 60 watts. 4 speakers can handle 60 watts. And that cabinet has that magic bell-like high end that I'm always looking for by nature. And again, Gründsoundkwaliteit, I discovered such frequencies and such openness from the Alnico speakers in those very early Marshall cabinets. And since I have that sound in my head, I also want it from my cabinets. So I learned a lot from Alnico speakers. There are some downsides. For instance, they usually compress a little earlier, which you might like. But there are some great Alnico speakers, nothing wrong about that. But the Alnico speakers that are available to me are in my vintage amps. And that goes back because pre-60s, I think Alnico was the thing that everybody used. And then some of the speakers in the 60s were still using it, and today there are a few. I have a few modern Alnico in my collection. I think I have a Fane, which is using Alnico. But I try to get onto the Neodimium thing as long as I get the sound qualities that I want, that I learned from ceramic magnets and Alnico speakers. Okay. What are your favorite microphones to capture your speakers, recording and IRs? Also distance versus close miking. I'm a fan of the Shure SM7B, which is the big brother of the 57, that classic microphone of all times for guitar. That still works, but the SM7B gives me more body and still has the qualities of the 57. So for me, that's a bit more balanced. Also, I have to admit, a 57 always cuts through, and especially when you record in a mix and you are not allowed to have a lot of low end, a 57 is cheap and still killer solution. So there's nothing wrong about that mic. And you have to understand, when you do close miking, the bass is enhanced when you're getting really close to the speaker. And so there is a beautiful sound of close miking. And there is something that happens when you are distance miking or room miking. But I'm primarily interested in the close miking sound first, because I can add a room and a dimension even with plugins or other means, but I will never get the sound dry again when I have a room sound. So when you record a room sound and it's perfect, super, you are done, that's perfect. But the moment you want to change from room to no room, it's not possible. And therefore, I would always use a close miking sound as well. And just in case, because with a close miking sound, you can still get it roomy. And there's so many reverb generators or room generators and short echoes and EQing of these effects you can do and give the sound a body which recreates reflections of a room and resonances. So that's possible, but you never get rid of those. And when you are using IRs, same thing. It's good to have options. So sometimes I even record unprocessed signals, which means I record the speaker out with a DI box and no filter at all, so I have options. But I always also record what my speaker sounds like, or my IR that I use. And so I have a sound that I know this is what I used live or that I physically enjoy. And then I have the option of, post-processing and choosing different options. On the other hand, it's always good to have a decision. The sooner you know, this is my sound, the smarter your mix will get, because that's one thing less you have to take care of. And so therefore, too many options, too many problems. No option, also problem. So for me, my personal opinion is, I have a decision, this is my sound, but I have a backdoor options with maybe an unprocessed. So I can, reamp or choose another IR or use another speaker and mic that. It's good to have one step that you can redo in another fashion, just in case you need to do that. HDO, Thomas, if you had to stack a NANOCAB onto a Fatcab, which version would you prefer? Well, I put the Fatcab low and the NANOCAB on top. Very simple. I make it's not for the optics, it's also for the sound, because I think the Fatcab has the better, punchier low end by nature, because it's bigger and how it is designed and the stronger magnet and all that stuff. And the coupling of the lower speaker with the floor is perfect with the Fatcab. And then the sweeter mid-range from a NANOCAB placed on top of that is a quality by itself, and they complement each other very, very nicely. So if you have a Fatcab and a NANOCAB, you can do so many things. You can put them on top of each other. You can put one behind you and the other one from the side. You can put one in front so the sound engineer is not yelling at you at all, and have the other one from the side. So the two cabinets is a smart thing if for some reason they hate you being too loud as a guitar player in the band. NANOCAB and Fatcab. And of course, with two speakers, you have even more headroom. So volume is not an issue anymore. But honestly, these days, volume is an issue in the other way around. Everybody complains you're too loud. Okay. Bill asks, when the AmpX is ready, do you expect that will be available in the US despite of the tariffs? I will have the direct customers, of course, sorted out in a way. I have no idea how the tariffs will affect the price, because I will not change anything for the US. And by the way, guys, tariffs, everything we have in stock in the US, I'm not changing the price because of tariffs, because I bought them before tariffs were in place, and I will raise the price when I have to, and the point will be when we have no stock anymore. And we are lucky because we put a lot of stuff in the American warehouse last year. So we have amp-1s for at least a year or two, unless you go crazy and buy all our stock. And we also have the NANOCAB, unfortunately, is sold out. We have Fatcab and Twincab available in the US at the old price. So guys, that's a no-brainer. It doesn't get any cheaper. And I simply hope that the whole situation will calm, and I find a way how to make plans. Yeah, but pre-orders for AmpX, I don't want to let you guys down. I just have to think about how to deal with the whole thing. And I'm not burning money. I don't want to make money, but I don't want to burn money. And that's something we have to look into when it's there. I meant distance miking as in foot or two away from cabinet to capture more of the cabinet. Yeah, capture more of the cabinet is true. There's actually also ways, there's several ways. You can move the mic, not room mic like Eric Clapton, the Beano album, where it's a lot further away from the speaker. When I find a sweet spot doing close miking, that's my personal preference, because then the guitar is huge. And when I put it a little bit away, it gets mellower, which is a quality by itself, but sometimes I believe the sound is shrinking in a way, because it's like, I mean, when I talk to mic with my voice very close, it's that effect, and when I move away, it's still my voice, but it's not as, what's the word, intim in German, close. So the closeness is something I personally like, but I add some room to it. and that gives the whole thing a dimension. So that's what, I mean, these days you have tracks as many as you want. So simply go max out one close mic and max out whatever you believe that's cool, and then use something like a room mic. Sometimes when you're in the studio, there are overheads on the drums, and if the sound sounds good, you can simply record those. Some people even mic up the back of the cabinet, and not only open back cabinets. I'm talking also 4x12 cabinets, because there's a certain rumble, and when you add this to the sound, it gives you another quality, warmth in HDO. Back to the question. Sorry, I meant which NANOCAB version, Vintage or Neo Pro, onto a Fatcab. Actually, in the combination, it doesn't matter that much anymore, because the Fatcab gives me the low end that I would prefer on a Neo Pro, and the mids from the Neo Pro and the classic NANOCAB are slightly different. Probably I would go for the vintage NANOCAB with a Fatcab versus the Neo Pro and the Fatcab. But if I play only one cabinet, for me it's the Neo Pro in my band. At home, I'm torn. I still have my vintage NANOCABs here, and I enjoy them. Spot on, especially at home. Okay, Mr. Root, what do you prefer the box with? A mic or a Blubox for the front of house, and the Blubox for your stage sound, and the box for your stage sound? Exactly. For me, it's the Blubox with a stack 1970 for the front of house. It's always a winner. I simply give them this sound. Even nowadays when I play the AmpX prototype, I have the stack 1970. Their XLR done, PA guy happy. No, I sometimes ask the guys, what are you doing? And it's like nothing. It's just perfect. And then on stage, I have a box, I have a real cabinet, because the monitors on stage, there are some good monitors, but you never know what you're getting. And a real guitar speaker cabinet on stage with a real drum is still my world. And trust me, this Friday I play in Püttlingen together with my dear friend Alex Bayroth. He will play a Fatcab and an Iridium, and I will play a Fatcab and a and the AmpX prototype. But I was playing a Mercury. So, and it's simply killer. It's loud and proud, especially on stage. And the PA guy loves the Blubox to make the sound even bigger, because guess what? The stack 1970 is what we are seeing here. This is the stack 1970. This is the box. It's in the house. You know, this is the best. It's my favorite. I mean, it's the best. No, best for me. That's the favorite, and that's why it's still here. And I haven't sold it. Some of my other cabinets I have sold and saved some speakers because reference is always cool to have. So I have a pretty good vintage collection, or collection of speakers, and especially a few vintage speakers that are very rare, which I need for creating my own new speakers, because I want some aspects of some of those speakers, knowing that I can't get them anymore. Even the original manufacturers' replicas are not the same, but I have the original speakers. Okay, any more questions, guys? If not, I hope you could hear the differences a little bit with the microphone. I know it's always a hard thing to do. On the other hand, we were talking about making a few more clinics in the future, also places where I will travel to, because it's, of course, it will be mainly Germany. It is a different experience if you have your hands on such a thing, if you hear it in the room, than just watching this video here. I mean, I always can try my best, but I will never get the same experience. And therefore, I'm happy if I have real speakers. And if you have the chance to see me live, come close to the stage, listen how it sounds on stage, go in front of the PA and listen what the PA sounds like. So that, I think that tells you more. And the other thing is, I want to do a few clinics and have a few dealers where you can actually have the full product range, and where you can go to and where you can check it out and play it with your own hands. And we do our test weeks. So this is all I think we can do. Is, you know, test weeks are just so you can have the chance to test it with your gear in your situation and find out if it's doing something good for you or not. And no problem. So thanks for joining in. I could talk forever about the grill cloth, which is very similar to this old Marshall grill cloth, and that's part of the magic. You can see probably all the marks here from close miking, different positions. And there are more here. And the speaker, being it the good old school speaker as it is, or the IR of these speakers, the speaker is 50% of your sound, at least. And why should you compromise? You pay whatever amount of money for your guitar, thousands and more, and you have so many guitars, and then you should match it with a decent speaker and enjoy electric guitar as it should be. That's my creed, and that's what I'm here for. And if your sound guy is getting on your nerves, try to find a solution that you are happy and that he stops moaning. Okay. Thanks for joining in. Next week, Emanuel Knorr, again with Twincab, NANOCAB, Fatcab, Iridium, and for the metal guys. And I'm back in 2 weeks with Slash, whatever. He's turning 60. I know that he has a quite interesting story. I'm not the biggest expert, but I have some time to read and watch some videos for myself, because and my Les Paul should be back here, which is having a maintenance job, getting new pickups. Yeah. So see you in 2 weeks, or see you on Friday in Püttling. check out my website for other contents. Okie doke, guys. Take care. Bye bye.